DJ PK, we're joined now by Tim LaComb, jazz analyst for SCG Media. Tim, good morning.
You miss 100% of the shots you never take.
No, I've taken a few shots, let me tell you. Take
and
shots
you're about
all
to
the
take
time.
another one.
I know, man.
What's up, fellas?
Take them constantly.
The Clippers by 12. The Clippers by 15.
Yes.
The Clippers by... Yeah. See anything in there? I mean, you had to know how it was going to go when you saw the starting lineup. You knew what was going on.
Yeah, and it was Lowry, getting back to action.
Mm-hmm.
And while it moved around good, he even minute afterwards. And we had C.J. Miles on in pregame for the whole time. It was awesome. And, C.J. said, Lowry will be fine with everything but wind. Wind is the thing that jumps up and gets you when you're making your return that first game back. And I felt like he was short on some shots and things like that. But it was good to have him back. No Nurk, no Keontae, no win.
Well, they had a stretch of 14 games where they played 500 ball, and right around the first of the year, they decided enough of that. And so they are now, I don't even know what it is now. I think it's 3-13 in their last 16 games, and they're just not playing Markkanen and Keontae George together very often. And sitting Nurkic when they need to.
And what I need you to do is just look ahead to like April.
35 games from now when it's all over, thank goodness, April 12th?
Yeah. I don't know how many days that is, but let's get to that point because I've said it here, and PK's, quoted me a couple times. 45 wins next year minimum. And
minimum?
And we get rolling.
I'd take that right now.
Do you see how the Jazz can get there?
Well, tell me who they add to the roster. I mean, I think we've seen it a couple times in Jazz history where you had a couple veterans who know how to play and give you the experience, and you can pick up 10 wins, especially through that middle when you're trying to move from 30 wins to 50. You can pick up 10 wins in that range pretty quick. After 50, wins get really hard to come by. You really got to earn them.
Right. And good point. I don't know. We don't know who they're going to add to the roster, but I'm saying roster presently constituted. Whoever is added at this point, to me, is just kind of extra. But, if all things were equal this year, I think this team, Walker Kessler doesn't get hurt first and foremost. I think it changes things. But we are where we are. So, yeah, circle that date in April.
Have you been able to watch any of these college kids to figure out who could be potential franchise changers?
We do have the luxury of having a couple of TVs up there in the studio, and 82 nights a year, that's the thing that jumps out. That's fairly daunting. So if you're going to catch or consume college hoop, you better be doing it at the same time. And so, yeah, we've gotten a look at, obviously, AJ a bunch.
Yeah.
And I've seen Boozer a handful of times. Yeah, and I've seen Peterson when he plays, and I've talked to a lot of different people too, and it's interesting. I think there's kind of different camps, but I think any one of those three guys added to this roster could be really, really powerful in different ways. And, that's why you just let this thing play out and see where you are going to pick. But this seems to be, from a depth perspective, a pretty decent, deep draft.
Yeah, so obviously if you draft anything but one, you have to take who's available, and in each subsequent spot that is a bit lower, you take who the other guys, you don't get to take who they took. Just assume, just for argument's sake, the number one pick, right? And that would be awesome. We'd all love that. And so you look at guys like Darren Peterson, who've been in and out of the lineup a little bit. DeBonsa, we've seen him play live multiple times and on TV many times. He's tantalizing. Boozer, it seemed like I've been watching Boozer play for 2 or 3 years now, and he was on the other night before the Cougars played the Wildcats. He didn't do a whole lot, but to me, his body is ready, and I think they list him at 6'9", 230-ish. Not a big high flyer, but an extremely productive player. So if I grant you, as the Jazz shareholder, the number one pick, who you taking?
I think this very point in time with what I've been able to consume, I think it's probably going to be either Peterson or AJ. My concerns, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this is even though they're going to be the number one pick, there's going to still be people that think, it should be somebody else.
Yeah.
And that all gets worked out. But, I mean, to me, it looks like, AJ is obviously a guy who can play and be really effective at this point. I think it's tightening some things down. I think defensively he can be better. He can be better in help. He can be better on ball at times. But that's pretty much any player that's going up through the process. I just like how he's responded during the season to adversity. I mean, it's one thing I look at, and they went and played UConn in Boston, and those guys just jumped him in that first half. And, a weak guy goes away, but he definitely answered the bell. I think that's happened a few times. And just by virtue of the fact that he's, been out there and taken – there's a mystery about Peterson, kind of in and out of the lineup. And that's not always bad because sometimes the people around you send crazy signals, and all you have to do is look back with Ace. I think some people got thrown off the scent because they were distracted by the people around the kid. And so oftentimes, that's why they talk to lots and lots of people. I told you guys, I used to call me, as a down the line assistant at a school that had a guy that may be drafted, and they still spent the time to talk. And not just talk, but talk for like 45 minutes. So that's where all this stuff gets sorted out. I think that's where the positioning really settles in, is once you have a read on the player and the person and the people around them, and then you can kind of make that educated guess. Long-winded answer, I think I'd go with AJ at this point in time because of what I've been able to see based on some of the other things.
Tim LaComb joining us. Tim, BYU is at Kansas this weekend. A couple of nationally ranked teams squaring off. They're both 5-2 in league. Obviously, it could be a matchup of the top two picks in the draft, but we don't really know. Peterson's feelings, who knows? I mean, they're getting a better record without him than they have with him. And they're 7-3 when Darren Peterson plays. They're 8-2 without him. And a little bit of that is, which games do you play and which games do you sit? What are the odds the Cougars are going to do this?
Well, they've won there before, right? And that's always good, albeit a different, different situation entirely. But I think the important thing is, for them, and you guys hit on this last week, and I kind of watched it, but outside the three-point shot and floor spacing is going to be really important, particularly in this game. Big, strong athletes. I will say Kansas isn't currently what Kansas used to be. You kind of see as talent gets spread around, they don't have now some of those guys that used to be on their bench, gone out and gotten paid somewhere else. But I think entirely a tough place to play. BYU really needs to answer after the Arizona game. I thought their fight was impressive, but it really comes down to two things to me. It's how they start and their ability consistently throughout the game, to make enough shots from three to keep that thing a game.
I may say something that's inconsistent, but certainly it won't be the first time, nor will it be the last. I don't mind DeBonsa trying to take over games, and we've seen that, and we've seen it been successful. I thought the other night obviously wasn't as successful. So I'm going to say, go ahead. You have the ability to take over it, but at the same time, don't force it. Does that make sense? Yeah,
100%. I've actually got a great scenario for that because I was watching a little tape on him. And so much of the don't force it is situational understanding. I watch it every night in the NBA, and there's a way different feel to a possession when the ball gets moved around and you gain an advantage, as opposed to the possession I saw with AJ. I think he dribbled down the ball down the right side, 20 plus seconds on the shot clock, and he instantly gets into a back down and with 22 seconds on the shot clock, takes a contested, very, very contested 2. And, I mean, I think that's playing into what the defense wants from BYU. I think when BYU's at their best, AJ's certainly, that attack guy, but it's in situations that work. In that one possession, it just kind of personifies nobody else touched the ball. At contested 2 with more than 20 seconds on the shot clock, there's good players on that team. So I think at times, there is a period where he maybe tries to do too much. Rob Wright was bottom line is those guys get paid a lot of money now. And these guys are the guys they brought in to win games. And, they're not going to win many games when Rob Wright shoots the ball the way he did the other night. And, I do think there's got to be a fine balance between their ability to play one-on-one and their ability to use one-on-one situationally as a really powerful weapon.
Do you believe in what Matt Harpring once called the law of numbers, that coming off a great game, DeBonsa he shot the ball very well against Utah, 15 of 24, 4 of 5 from 3. He was bound to cool off a little bit, which he did against Arizona, which is obviously an elite team defensively. So do you expect a bounce-back game out of him against Kansas? Because he's not a 25% shooter either.
No, I expect him to play better. I mean, the kid he's answered the bell. I was probably not having a lot of knowledge, having this new phenomenon where all of a sudden Provo is the place for number one, guys in the country, which I think is awesome. I mean, I had another guy here the other night, Branch, but it's just a little different. So it took some getting used to. And so some of that stuff, like as you hear about him coming in, you grip for what's it going to be. And I think he's done a great job of fitting in. I just think at times, he can be there's a fine line to being assertive out there. And I think you always want to err on the right side of that. But when he's been at his best, it's been kind of a team effort. And I think, if BYU wants to get as far as they can get, it needs to be on the shoulders of a couple of those guys and then everybody else pitching in. I'm a fan of AJ. I think he's definitely got my attention, and I was a little skeptical on some of it early on. We made the move to St. George, and there was a coach fired down there. I mean, there was a lot of things that, as a coach, you get your antenna up and go, what exactly is the situation? But everything I've heard from the people there, everything, I've heard from the teammates, everything, just what a positive kid, what a hardworking kid. And so now you just want it to get it all to work, and what a place to have it get to work at Kansas on a big Saturday situation.
How about Rob getting into the teeth of the defense, but not going all the way, because it seems he can get in there, but the deeper he gets, the more difficult it is for him.
Yeah, his sweet spot seems to be kind of either getting all the way, like when he's got enough to be able to hit the floater, or he's got that really nice where he comes, I guess the shot that got blocked at the end of the game. It's actually a pretty nice move. And he had, for an inkling, he could have got the thing up quick. He had a window. But yeah, I like the way he attacks. And you see it with Collier often. The objective to basketball is to get a piece of the paint. You want to get that ball into the paint because it's a distraction for everybody else that's got an assignment. And they may turn their head to look at you the minute that happens. You're throwing that thing past their ear to the three-point line. And I think that's what I'd like to see maybe a little bit more from Wright. I like his scoring mindset. But like the other night when it was just obvious he was struggling to get it to go, even on that last play, if he couldn't have got that off, I thought he might have been able to rifle that thing out to the top of the key to Bostic, who was – or what's the kid's name? Not Bostic. 5 was wide open top of the key.
Boscovich, yeah, my bad. And he kind of had his hands ready and everything, but it got blocked. So, I mean, I just think those opportunities are there. And those guys, Rob and AJ, again, they're the guys that are carrying a lot of the weight with Richie and Keita. They've got to be, as the season progresses in those pivotal moments, they got to be more sound.
Tim, we appreciate it. As always, we will hear you again tonight with the Jazz back in action against the Warriors. Pre-game show with Jake and Tim is at 6 o'clock, tip-off at 7. Have you figured out what you're watching on the other two screens? You got them all juggled, lined up, ready to go?
I'm just so discouraged. I forgot I had a game tonight. You just reminded me. I'm just kidding.
Nice.
I'm not sure. We make, as you know, we make game day decisions. And if you happen to be there tonight, you can help us make that decision.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
See you guys. Thank you.
All right. DJ PK, your feedback next. Stay with us.